What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Early Edge. I am the Counselor of Cash, and I'm taking over the Sunday Kickoff show brought to you by BetMGM, of course. Coach on his way back from across the pond. He will probably be in this seat tonight. If not, it's going to be me again, but I think it's going to be Coach for our primetime game. That's Bills-Giants. Trust me, we'll give you reasons to watch that game. Let's talk about how we did yesterday on Saturday in college football. Some of us did okay. AB continues the hot stretch. I mean, God, this guy is absolutely on fire. I'm actually going to talk to him about that in just one moment. Chip Patterson, a little good, a little bad, and EC having a bad day, but I know he was really proud of Arizona's win. So there's at least that, but certainly what Coach would say, a ho-hum day there. Let's make it a great day on Sunday. We've got 11 games to talk about, and I can't do it without my two right-hand men today. It's going to be AB, of course, and Proppy. Fellas, super happy to be in this seat. AB, I got to go to you first, though. Every time I look at the recap screen, it's just a bunch of check marks next to your name. I mean, have you even taken stock of what your record is over the last 3, 4, 5 weeks? Or not that you need to. I'm just curious.
Yeah, man. First off, I appreciate that. Yeah, on the college football show, we're about 63% on the year. I think as of the last 2 months, 71%, man, including all sports. It's just been a ridiculous run, which frightens me because any better knows that the second that that things go well, all hell can break loose. So yeah, we're gonna keep it tight. You know what I mean?
Hey, listen, there's always going to be ups and downs, but the good news with a lot of us is there's more ups than there's downs, and that's obviously what we're looking for. Proppy, how's it going today?
What's up, Counselor? How are you? AB, good to see you. You've done a great job filling in for Coach. Also want to shout out Coach doing the commentary last night or yesterday afternoon for the Misfits Influencer Boxing. Pretty impressive. One day in London, or was it in Manchester? Excuse me. One day in Manchester, and the next back here potentially. So just wanted to give a shout out to Coach. It's a very hardworking man right there.
I wonder if he wouldn't have hung out with Martin W. Green. They had to go meet up, right?
Oh, yeah. They talked.
Is he in Manchester?
I have no idea.
Okay. He's close to where Coach was. They talked about it. But honestly, given Coach's schedule, I think the odds of that are plus 180 because he had to bounce.
I mean, if he's going to be back tonight, potentially, I don't think he had much downtime.
That's right. All right. Well, let's get into this slate, gentlemen. We've got 7 1:00 games. We've got 4 4:00 games. And the game we're going to start off with is actually near and dear to my heart. We see Santana Moss behind my shoulder here, holding up the 21 for Sean Taylor. Commanders coming off a horrific loss to the Chicago Bears. They go into Atlanta. This line has gone down. I mean, Atlanta was -2.5. Now it's -1.5. Clearly, Washington getting some money here, which might surprise some people. But again, it's a week-to-week league here. AB, you have a pick in this game. Let's start with you.
Yeah, man. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to leave you on the screen here as I talk because we're going to take over 2.5 turnovers in this game for both teams. All right. So here's the thing. I mean, the Commanders should do their thing, right? They should. Now, the Falcons, and I want to make sure that I give props to the room because he understands this Falcons team pretty damn well. But I feel like both quarterbacks are capable of turning this thing over. And I think that the Falcons can force Washington to be one-dimensional at times. Washington can force Atlanta to be one-dimensional at times. And I feel like that's where we're going to get it. So I'm going to take over 2.5 turnovers in this game. Affordable price. But yeah, man, I throw it back to you and I throw it back to props because you guys know these two teams probably better than anyone here at the Early Edge. So yeah,
and probably before I kick it off to you, I'll mention Dave Richard from your prop show. He's got Younghoe Koo over 1.5 field goals and -119. I actually really love that pick, by the way.
Yeah.
Probably before I kick it to you, there's a couple things I like here. I don't think I'm interested in taking a side. If I was forced to, I would take Washington, but I really don't want to do that. I like some props here, and forgive me for not putting them out. It's just one of those things where I wasn't super certain, so I didn't put them out there. But Logan Thomas props I think are really interesting to me. You look at his receptions, you look at his yards, which I think is still around 36.5. He has been featured when healthy in this offense. So I like him. I like Brian Robinson too, as opposed to Bijan. His number went down from 60.5 rushing yards to, I believe, 59.5, and that's where it's hanging out in most places. I understand the Falcons are good against the run, but I do think Brian's just going to get the volume to probably eclipse that. Again, these aren't bets that I've made, but I do kind of want to recommend them. Do you like either of those? And is there anything else you like in this game? I know you don't have an official pick in this one.
Yeah, I think Logan Thomas is a good look. He has the largest target share with Sam Howell under center. Falcons also give up a lot of production to opposing tight ends. For whatever reason, Howell's just not really locking on to Terry McLaurin or Jahan Dotson or really any receiver. It's really been a really spread out target distribution, but Logan Thomas has the largest target share, which is unusual for a tight end, especially when you have a lot of talent at wide receiver. So I think that's a good look for sure. I also think the Falcons are a bit of a paper tiger when we're talking about their defense. Coming into last week, they were first in defensive EPA allowed per rush. I think a lot of that has to do with their schedule. They've had a soft schedule against opposing running backs. So I do think Brian Robinson should get there in a competitive game script. That is volume-based play. I completely agree with you, Sia. I also expect this to be a big Bijan Robinson spot as well. I think eventually the Falcons are going to have to realize that he's by far their best offensive weapon. Tyler Algier is a fine backup, but should not be out-carrying Bijan if you're in the business of winning football games. So I think this is a spot against a Commanders defense that isn't particularly strong against the run, where Bijan could also have a lot of success on the ground. So he's someone I like.
Yeah, the Bears were running easily against Washington last week. That's for sure. That front four can get after the passer, but they're not exactly great run stoppers, especially on the outside. I noticed somebody, I think it was Raving Derelict, mentioned Bijan's over. I kind of do like Bijan's over in rushing yards. I also like his over longest rush. AB, go ahead.
Yeah. I did not mean to interrupt your dissertation there, counselor. But I did want to say, I saw in the chat here, our man Rick said, thanks to Nick Folk for his weekly donation to the bankroll. I swear to you, anybody, every game that the Titans play, Nick Folk over 1.5 field goals, the Ravens, Justin Tucker over 1.5 field goals. These two teams are just good enough to get the ball down the field and not score touchdowns. And they have two excellent kickers that they will use over and over and over. I think we already have, 6-7 field goals kicked in this London game right now. So I just wanted to say that, because who would be paying attention to the Titans kicker, right? But this dude is an excellent prop bet week after week after week.
Yeah. Rick, thanks for being in the chat. Everybody, thanks for being in the chat. And please hit the like button if you can. Anytime I'm hosting, I like to get the likes up as much as possible so I can text coach and be like, hey, I noticed your last show, the likes weren't as high as this one. Proppy, go. Before we get to Vikings Bears, go ahead.
Did want to point out real quick, Kyle Pitts' target profile is starting to improve. It's been outproduced by a backup tight end and Jonnu Smith recently, but Kyle Pitts is beginning to draw targets. He has a very deep A-dot, his average depth of target down the field at a high rate. So I'm very bullish. I think his arrow's pointed up. I also think this is a matchup he could be successful in as well.
100%. And in DraftKings, he's only 3,500. So that's an easy price to pay down to if he's going to be popular. You know, he's not going to be popular in DFS is Bijan Robinson if you want to take that chance, because there's a lot of other value just for you DFS players out there. And by the way, if you DFS players are out there and you're not already subscribed to Fantasy Football Today DFS, shame on you. I host that show. And it's pretty great. Okay, Vikings at the Bears, two teams that are not pretty great. And I'll say we don't have official plays on this one, but the next game, which is Seahawks Bengals, we have a ton of plays. So some of these games, we're just not going to have a lot of plays. I think one thing affecting the Vikings Bears, and AB, I'll start with you, is the injuries, of course. You know, we have no Justin Jefferson. Deontay Foreman's going to be starting at the running back position for the Bears because Roshan Johnson, Khalil Herbert are out. Then you have some weather that's mixed in with this game. It looks like there's going to be maybe some rain, but certainly some wind as well. You know, it's just an uncomfortable game because we don't know what to expect out of the Vikings in particular, in my opinion. Do you have any leans in this game whatsoever?
Yeah, you know, I almost went with turnovers in this game as well, right? I think that it's an excellent opportunity to do it. I'll bring up Jordan Addison, but I'm going to stop there because, again, Props knows so much more than I do in regards to him, but it seems like this could be a great opportunity. And then the Bears, like the big question is this, is that you have two quarterbacks both kind of searching for something, right? Like you have Kirk Cousins that we don't know what his future is going to be. Like we see all the reports and stuff that, you know, he's not going to waive his no trade clause. And then you've got Justin Fields, who we talked about last week, that was pretty much in must-win mode, right? So I'll stop there. I don't have any plays, but yeah, man, like I'm just focused on these two quarterbacks, you know?
Yeah, and Sean says the weather is good in Chicago. I don't know if you're speaking of like the fact that it's clear. I mean, it's definitely windy. I've heard that on like several accounts. So just an FYI, unless you have, you say a little windy, not like expected. Okay, so maybe it's not as windy. Interesting. Proppy, anything in this game? I know you don't have any official plays. Any leans? Any props? I mean, you know, AB just brought up Jordan Addison. I think he's interesting. I think maybe Deontay Foreman, interesting. Somebody in the chat mentioned DJ Moore's over receptions prop at plus money. It was over 4.5 receptions at plus 100. Wind or no wind, they're going to get the ball in his hands. From Kyle Burks, I actually think that's a pretty smart play at plus 100. But anything you're leaning towards?
Yeah, interesting matchup here. One interesting part about the Vikings is when they play a game where it's a potentially competitive game environment, or there's maybe an inferior opposition, which this game certainly projects to be with this Bears team not being particularly good. The Vikings actually opt to go fairly heavily conservative. We've seen that this season, even despite the huge passing volume that they had to open the year. So I think without Justin Jefferson, we're going to see a fairly run-heavy approach or a game plan from the Vikings. Quite a bit of Alexander Mattison mixed in with some Cam Akers there. I do like Jordan Addison quite a bit, who AB mentioned. He should be the number one target, or 1A to 1B, along with TJ Hawkinson. We did get a glimpse of what this offense will look like without Justin Jefferson in the lineup, and Addison was certainly the number one receiver there. So I do like Jordan Addison, but I expect the Vikings to be fairly conservative, mixing in a bunch of Alexander Mattison and Cam Akers here. No props really jumping off. It is an interesting spot for Deontay Foreman. I agree. This guy is very productive when he's on the field, but for whatever reason, just can't get a consistent role in the offense. But staying away from props in this game, I do think DJ Moore is a good look. I just think he has a lot of boom bust potential. He could easily go for 7 catches or 6 catches for 200 yards as he could 2 catches for 13 yards. So I'm personally staying away from props in this game.
Yeah, and honestly, again, I always kind of have to bring up, I feel like I have to bring up DFS at least for a second for each game. Proppy mentioned Justin Fields, and somebody in the chat mentioned Justin Fields as well. Not a lot of people are playing him because of those win conditions, and there's so many more like value quarterbacks, whether it be, you know, Stafford, or you pay up for Tua or Trevor Lawrence. There's just a lot of, you know, Minshew, you can pay down for him. A lot of quarterbacks you can take. People probably not paying up for Justin Fields. Something to think about. All right, let's go to the Seahawks-Bengals game. I think this one is so interesting for so many reasons. Like the Bengals, listen, they looked great last week against Arizona's defense. It was just kind of a perfect matchup for Joe Burrow to kind of get right. The question is, and Proppy, I'll start with you this time, or maybe I'll give out my pick first, and then I'll go to you, Proppy. The question is, you know, how is Joe Burrow going to look against a slightly more formidable defense? We know the Seattle Seahawks can really get after the quarterback. And the rush defense is pretty good too. They have corners that are talented on the outside. They haven't really shown up in terms of, you know, limiting yards to wide receivers. But coming off a bye too, I think Seattle's in a really good position. And I don't know that we know that Joe Burrow is, quote, back. T. Higgins back in this game, it's looking like. So all the weapons are there, but I'm going to go with Seattle +3. This is a key number. I think Seattle can flat out win this game for all the reasons I mentioned earlier, including the fact that they're coming off a bye, relatively healthy. I think they needed that bye. Geno Smith had that kind of knee scare his last game. Then DK Metcalf sat out a little bit. They've got at least one of their tackles back in this game. Give me the Seahawks +3 in a tough contest, in my opinion. All right, Proppy, let's move to you because you have a prop in this game, and I like this guy too. I actually really like this prop. And I'll tell you, this is a really sneaky guy in DFS too, because I think he's only like 5,700 or 5,900 on DraftKings. Not a lot of people are going to go there because they're not super excited about this game, I don't think, or at least not as it pertains to Tyler Lockett. What is your prop specifically?
Yeah, it's Tyler Lockett over 51.5 receiving yards. Tyler Lockett, to me, Sia, is a sleeping giant. What I mean by that is he has an elite target profile, just the production hasn't come. I think it's only a matter of time. He's an excellent positive regression candidate. So if we look at him, his air yard share, his target share in the offense, all those marks are elite. Just hasn't resulted in a high amount of production. I really think this matchup could be one where we see Lockett heavily featured against the Bengals defense that plays a lot of zone. Tyler Lockett is a very savvy veteran, very comfortable finding those soft spots in the zone defense getting a big discount on this number as well. Typically, Lockett's receiving line is somewhere in the low 60s to mid 60s. So love this opportunity to buy low on Tyler Lockett here. I also think this is a good matchup. I think the over, honestly, is worth a look in this game. I think both of this game has some sneaky shootout potential. Joe Burrow could certainly push Seattle into a spot where they don't lean heavily on the run. We've also just seen Pete Carroll and this offense be pretty pass heavy with Geno Smith. They trust him. Geno Smith played well this season. So I think this game has some sneaky shootout potential and could see a uptick in passing volume. And as a result, I really like Tyler Lockett here.
Yeah, I like it. And then we have some more plays on this game. By the way, this chat, you guys are great, by the way. One of my favorite quotes of all time is Raving Derelict mentioned it. This is a quote that's gone back quite some time. He says, luck is the residue of design. Really, really good quote. Anytime somebody says you're lucky, sometimes you are lucky, but a lot of times you're putting yourself in the right places. That's not a football quote. That's a life quote. So really like that. Okay, let's talk about RJ's pick. He has a pick on SportsLine, and it's the Seahawks +3. He's with me on that one. We have EC's pick from the prop show. Kenneth Walker over 67.5 rush yards at -115. Love that. Love Kenneth Walker in DFS. Not a lot of people are paying attention to him. Listen, the Bengals allow 5 yards per carry. In case you didn't know, it's not very good. And I think Kenneth Walker has that boom bust potential. Look at him for his longest rush. Look at him to pile up yards. Yes, Zach Charbonnet is going to get in there here and there, but I do think it's going to be the Kenneth Walker show for the most part, looking at a 65-35 split at worst. That's how I see it. Then finally, Dave's pick. Well, inefficiency, Joe Mixon. Like that's what I equate to Joe Mixon. And he has Joe Mixon's under rushing and receiving of 87.5. Again, Joe Mixon under 87.5 rushing and receiving yards. I like that play too. We're all over this game. So hopefully we're hitting this every single way. Let's hit a game that's kind of ugly. We do have an official pick on it, so we'll talk about it a little bit. The 49ers are at the Browns. Listen, if you listen to the early show that SportsLine does, you would have gotten the 49ers at -4.5. And you still could have gotten the 49ers at -6.5, which is frankly where we all should have gotten it because it looked like Deshaun Watson was trending to be out. But the good news is Maestro already had the pick out there on SportsLine. If you got -4.5, you're in really good shape because no Deshaun Watson, no DTR. What we do have is PJ Walker, who isn't terrible, but against this San Francisco defense, probably going to look terrible. It's only a 36-point total. Niners now favored by 9.5. AB, I'm going to go to you. Certainly, I can't imagine you think there's any value in taking the Niners at this point, -9.5. But then again, I don't know. Maybe you do. Anything that you're liking in this game whatsoever?
Yeah. So, all right. So first off, I want to go back real quick. You said Charbonnet, right? The player. It reminds me of that courtroom scene in the movie Big Daddy when he's like, have you been drinking? Yeah, I've had a few Charbonnets. What of it? Look, man, like in this game, look on SportsLine, I took the over when it was at 38.5. It came down from like 42. Me and Props are actually texting about this at like 3:30 in the morning earlier this week, but it's already down to, what'd you say, 35.5, somewhere around there,
36,
right? Like
looking like 36.
Yeah, man, like this game is going to be weird, but let me say, I don't hate Walker for the Browns. There are going to be turnovers in this game. There are going to be short fields. At some point, the 49ers have to turn the ball over. I'm not saying that it's going to be today, but just the numbers of life. At some point, they're going to throw an interception. They're going to fumble. It has to happen. So I'm fascinated to see where that happens because this number in terms of a total is so unbelievably attainable. And especially, I mean, the 49ers score 31 points a game, man, and they could go higher than that. This game could be wild. So I'll stop there. I don't have anything on the show. Obviously, I do have the over 38.5 on the site, but man, everybody's playing the under, and I totally get that, but I'm kind of feeling the other way here.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that one. It's just this game is so interesting. And Prophet, we have somebody in the chat that said, hey, do you like CMC anytime touchdown at -130, which I guess he's done like, I don't know, 14, 15 games in a row at this point. This would be a spot where I actually probably wouldn't love it. Just from a game script standpoint, I could see him maybe sort of getting phased out, maybe Elijah Mitchell getting sort of phased in a little bit more. But really, I'm just guessing. Obviously, -130 is a pretty good number considering where his number is normally at. And it's clearly -130 because Cleveland's defense is formidable. Do you like that or anything else in this game?
Yeah, I don't mind that, honestly. I looked at it last night. It was minus 160, so I think you're getting a good number there in comparison to where the market's at. So don't mind that for him. Obviously, at least in the first half, he should be heavily featured. And certainly when the 49ers offense plays, they're so hyper efficient. Brock Purdy is playing such great football right now. So yeah, I think this 49ers offense should be able to move the ball effectively down the field. C-Mac should certainly have a couple of red zone touches. So don't mind that there at all. As far as other props in the game, staying away from Cleveland, just don't really know what to expect from that PJ Walker-led offense. Not really comfortable playing any props there. The numbers are low, but San Francisco's obviously a good defense, and they could easily push Cleveland off of running the ball. The Cleveland's offensive line is very good. They should have some success on the ground. Just a matter of if Cleveland's defense, which is obviously solid as well, can slow down this hyper efficient San Francisco offense led by Brock Purdy, who is first in literally every single quarterback metric. So he's playing with a lot of leads, no question about that, but he's also playing excellent football. So props to this 49ers team. They're up for every game. Just been super impressed with them. I was shocked when this number was 4.5 as well. So yeah, I think 49ers are in a good shape to roll here.
Yeah, go ahead, AB.
Yeah, I was going to say two things. One, exactly what Props just said in regards to Brock Purdy. They are throwing the ball way more than anyone thought that they would. And I don't mean short little dunk. They're letting him go. Like he's Dan Marino. Yeah. Go. Like they're throwing the ball a whole lot more. And then number two, you look at this 49ers team. You look at this game. All right, normally in any NFL game, the average prop number over under set for punts in a game is 7.5 to 8.5, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes you'll get a 9.5, but generally 7.5 to 8.5. This game is about to hit 12.5.
No,
it's already at 11.5, and it's about to go to 12.5. So yeah, that's where the books feel it.
I'm just curious, since you're kind of the connoisseur when it comes to punting, is this a point where if it got to 12.5, you'd actually take the under? I mean, yes. I could see the Niners sustaining some long drives against.
100%. 100%. And let me say, I know that the Browns are a different team now that Chubb is out, Watson is out, but the Browns are very much like the Titans. They will eat 6.5 minutes off the clock and get nothing out of it. Absolutely nothing out of it. And we know the 49ers, they could go on 13, 14 play drives. So yeah, man, under 100%, which sounds crazy because we've never played a punch under on the show, but that's a good look. Yeah, definitely.
Speaking of good looks, we have some issues on Elijah Mitchell. I think Bradley mentioned he's inactive today. So if that's the case, obviously it would be Jordan Mason that would come in from Christian McCaffrey. But then somebody said that they thought Elijah is returning today. I think he is inactive today.
So real quick, and I swear to God, I will stop interrupting, but question for either of you guys, and I'll use it from a fantasy perspective too. Doesn't have to be prop betting. And I have him on my team. George Kittle, tight end. We saw him go off. Is this a George Kittle type game? How do you guys feel about that? I saw it was asked in the chat.
Yeah, I go ahead, Proppy, you first.
Yeah, just regarding Kittle, I just don't think you can ever bench him. He can just, very Antonio Gates-esque, 3 receptions, 3 touchdowns. He offers that sort of upside every time he's on the field. I actually like him in this matchup against Cleveland, who does have a very solid pass rush. He should be an underneath target for Brock Purdy, who's going to have to get rid of the ball quickly. So I actually could see Kittle's usage increase today, him have a couple extra receptions. So I like him in this matchup, actually.
Yeah, I mean, the upside seems capped a little bit, but he's George Kittle at the end of the day, and we know he can pile up touchdowns and big plays. So the question becomes, who else do you have to play? If you have a Kyle Pitts, I would maybe consider that, but otherwise, I think you're probably playing George Kittle. Let's talk about what is probably going to be an exciting game in spite of the fact that it's a 14.5-point spread, which is hilarious. The Panthers are at Miami. The Dolphins, of course, 14.5. The spread, or I should say the total's 48.5. Which is interesting from a DFS standpoint. A lot of people playing pieces in this game, like a Raheem Mostert, for example, some Tyreek Hill, and then some cheap pieces on the other side, like a Hubbard or a Mingo, of course, Adam Thielen. We have a couple official picks from this game. EC's got Jalen Waddle over 59.5 receiving yards at -115. I think that's a pretty good number on Jalen Waddle, especially when you you note that last week they were really trying to force feed Jalen Waddle, especially in the first half. And it really was to the Dolphins' detriment because they were force feeding him so much. The Giants were reading it too. And that's when they got that 102-yard interception to the house. With that said, I like that play. And then Dave's got a pick from the prop show as well. Hopefully everybody watching this is always tuned in to the prop show at 4:00 on Friday. But Dave's pick is Raheem Mostert over 13.5 receiving yards. That was at -135. Kind of like that one too, especially with obviously Devin Achane out for probably at least 4 weeks here. So, Proppy, I'm going to go to you. Any plays in this game? Anything you like?
Yeah, nothing I like presently right now, at least as far as the Miami Dolphins are concerned. I think Salvon Ahmed is worth a look. He'll be the backup running back behind Raheem Mostert. I do think with a game with a 13.5, 14.5 point spread, he could certainly work in. Mostert's had durability concerns. I just don't think they want to give him a massive workload in a game like this where they project to be leading, and they've been hyper efficient running the football as well. So I definitely think we could see the backup running back get a lot of work. No Jeff Wilson, he's inactive today. See him mention no Devon Achane there, as well. As far as the Panthers are concerned, I feel like they're going to be in comeback mode throughout this game. We're going to see a solid amount of passing volume. Chuba Hubbard handling the backfield touches. Adam Thielen, Jonathan Mingo. Jonathan Mingo's a guy I like quite a bit, just both long-term and this week, coming off that career or season best career game, really, since he's a rookie. Last week, 5 receptions for 48 yards. I definitely think there'll be a lot of opportunities against Miami, who should have a big lead in this game, forcing them into a high-passing environment. So those are some guys I have my eyes on.
All right, AB, I know you don't have any official plays here. Anything you're looking at in this game?
I think Props nailed it on Adam Thielen. I could see this being a big receptions game for him. Mm-hmm. I could see that like just over and over and over because, as Props mentioned, intelligently, the Panthers are probably literally going to be passing the entire game. Now, the fascinating part, if you're playing Dolphins props or even the spread, because everything's going to be so juiced, right, is the Panthers offense and the crosser routes. Because the Dolphins can give those up and the Panthers can the Panthers are kind of like Vanderbilt in college football. They can annoy you. Right? Like they could just annoy you with 6-yard passes and you're like, why can we not stop this? It just keeps going, right? If that's not working, the Miami Dolphins are going to have 9,000 possessions today. Like it's just going to be over and over and over. So I'm fascinated with that one, but yeah, no props for me just because there's just so much of a delta between the balance of both of these teams that my props that I usually play don't work well in that. So I'll stay away. But yeah, Adam Thielen, that seems like a great play.
I'll tell you what does work well. BetMGM bonuses. So let's talk about that real quick. New BetMGM customers can sign up today and get $200 in bonus bets. Just place your first wager of at least $10 and you will receive $200 instantly in bonus bets, regardless of your wager's outcome. With bonus code EDGE200. Again, that's bonus code EDGE200. All right, let's move on to the next game here. We've got some picks in this one. Proppy and AB, you each have a pick here. So let's talk about the Colts and the Jaguars. I'm very excited about this game. It's, Minshew Mania is back. From a DFS standpoint, this is such an interesting game because we have this secondary for the Colts that can get beat by Trevor. Zay Jones is out, so it looks like Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, Travis Etienne, Evan Ingram, they all seem viable. But then on the other side, Josh Downs is really emerging. Michael Pittman. What's going to happen with Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor? There's just so much going on in this game. It's a 3.5-point spread, 4 in some places, 44-point total. Proppy, I'll start with you. You have an official play.
I do indeed. Yeah, you mentioned him, Sia. Josh Downs, rookie wide receiver. I've been highly, highly impressed with Josh Downs. Just very excellent hands, polished route runner, slot man extraordinaire. He's come on really strong, coming off a career best, 6 targets, 6 receptions, 97 yards last week. With Gardner Minshew under center, he has been ultra productive as well. Minshew being a more traditional pocket quarterback. Also, Minshew's targeted Josh Downs just as much as he's targeted Michael Pittman Jr., whose receiving line is 15 yards or almost open nearly 20 yards higher. Right now, it's around 15 yards higher than Josh Downs. So, yeah, I put him out at 42.5. The number's 44.5. Still like him to go over that number. I'm comfortable playing it there. So, yeah, I think this is a good spot for Josh Downs. I also think we could see some additional passing volume potentially from the Colts offense with a Jags team who's certainly capable of pushing them, even though I do think this number Downs is clearly capable of going over even in a neutral game environment as well.
Yeah, Downs didn't get a lot of fanfare coming out of the draft in terms of like sort of the press that some of these other big time receivers get, but drafted 79th overall. I mean, honestly, like he's outpacing that draft pick. Perhaps some teams should have gone Downs in an earlier round, if you will. AB, you've got an official pick on this game as well. What you got?
Well, let me just say that was an excellent Fall Out Boy reference right there. So I have to give you, got to give you props on that one. All right, so we're going to go over 2.5 turnovers in this game. You're going to get it priced -120. Now, here's a trivia question. The Colts and Jaguars play each other every year. Division opponents, AFC South. All right, home and away. Do you know the last time that the Colts beat the Jaguars in Jacksonville?
I just read it this morning.
Wasn't it
2014?
Wow.
2014. And look, I'm not one that plays trends like that at all, but at some point, it just becomes a reality. Like, you just can't win down there. I don't know what it is. But, yeah, we're going to play turnovers here. I think that both of you guys were correct in regards to the analysis on both offenses. They're going to find spots where you're going to see big success, and you're going to find spots where both of these quarterbacks and teams will do really dumb stuff. And that's what these two teams are. That's what the whole AFC South is, to be completely honest with you, right? So, yeah, man, like over 2.5 turnovers for me, low price, -120. There you go.
And Maestro has an official play here too, but Proppy, go ahead. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry about that, guys. But yeah, I was curious to see what you thought of regarding Indianapolis's backfield from a prop standpoint. We've got Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor. Their rushing yards are both identical, so it seems to be the sports books don't really know who's going to receive the lion's shares of the carry. Obviously, it's going to be some form of a split. Curious if you have a preference with DFS, or if you see one as a clear number one option here.
So for that reason, I'm not playing either of them in DFS. If anything, I'd lean towards Jonathan Taylor's overs because I know his snap share is going to go up. The problem is I'm worried about the game script because if we get into a situation with Gardner Minshew, and I don't think Gardner Minshew is bad by any means, but if we get into a game script where Jacksonville jumps out early, how much rushing are they doing in the second half? But when you look at these totals, I mean, Jonathan Taylor could easily bust, a few runs and achieve this over, 41, 42 and a half at this point. So, I mean, I would lean to Jonathan Taylor, but this unfortunately is one of those where I'd prefer not to guess. So I'd stay away from that. Maestro's pick, by the way, which he put out early, again, the SportsLine app and these shows that are early in the week, they're so important because you're likely going to get the better number. Maestro has the Colts +4.5. It's down to 3.5 now. That's a really big difference, by the way, getting that 4.5 versus 3.5. So again, SportsLine, make sure you remember, make sure you've got your notifications on for these shows. Let's go to this next game. Saints at the Texans. No official plays in this one. The Saints favored by 1.5. It's a 42.5 point total. Looks like Tank Dell is going to be out of this game, which is kind of important. Robert Woods recovering a little bit from a rib injury. He's definitely going to play. They still got Nico Collins, an inefficient Dameon Pierce, and the Saints defense looks pretty good. I mean, I haven't really been on the Saints this year, but AB, I got to tell you, I kind of lean towards the Saints as good as CJ Stroud has been, and he's been great, and this defense has shown up. But it does seem like with the Saints being fully healthy and this defense really being a similar defense to last year, even though they lost some guys in free agency, I kind of like the Saints here.
Yeah, there are more pieces on the Saints to trust, even though CJ Stroud has played excellent. Like, it's been fun to watch him, but I'm with you. This feels like the Saints just have more guys that you can trust, right? Seems like an Alvin Kamara type game. It seems like a type of game of what's his name? The tight end. God, how can I not remember his name?
Jimmy Graham?
No. For the Saints. Quarterback, tight end.
Juwan Johnson?
For
Tyson Hill.
Yeah. Like, it seems like that style of a game, right? Mm-hmm. To where he's going to get snaps in the red zone. He's going to make some of those tough 3rd and 4 type runs, things like that. So, yeah, no official plays from me, but I'm with you. I lean more towards them. You could just trust a little bit more.
Yeah, fair enough. Interesting how this Baltimore Titans game is turning out. Titans were about to score a touchdown, which would have covered the spread for them in most cases, but it
would have changed the total too. I was noticing that, right? Because a lot of people are on that under 42.5. Also, real quick, I do want to say, if Malik Willis is the quarterback moving forward for this team, Tajay Sharp, all right, he will get way more of the carries and looks than Derrick Henry will, as opposed to what the normal thing is, with Ryan Tannehill in there. So just
dump offs to
did Tannehill get hurt?
Makes sense.
Yeah,
Tannehill got hurt. I don't know how serious it is. Do you have anything, Proppy, before we move on to the
Tajay Spears? Yeah, sorry, I said Sharp. Spears. Yeah.
I always get those two confused as well.
Saints, Texans, anything?
I like Chris Olave here in a bounce back spot. I think with Carr hopefully being closer to 100%, Olave's had 2 quiet consecutive games in a row, got hurt or had that little injury scare in pregame warmups last week. He got into full practice on Friday, has no injury designation coming into this game. So, yeah, he's a guy I like getting at a discount here. I think we could see some additional passing volume from the Saints as well. They could be pushed by the Texans. So I like Chris Olave today.
Yeah, sneaky. I do like all things Alvin Kamara, and I will say from our Fantasy Football Today DFS show, which I do with Mike McClure, we both really liked Kamara. So get him into your lineups if you can. All right, let's take a look at. So we just went through seven games. We're going to do 4 more, obviously, but let's take a look at what our actual plays are on this AM slate, if you will, the early set of games, 1:00 on the East Coast. Take a look, take a screenshot, whatever you need to do, make your bets. We got Proppy with the Tyler Lockett prop and Josh Downs, Dave Richard with the Younghoe Koo, Joe Mixon, Raheem Mostert. I've got the Seahawks +3. RJ White's got the Seahawks +3. AB's got those turnovers props in the Commanders, Falcons, and Colts Jaguars game. Larry's got really good numbers on 49ers -4.5, Colts +4.5, and EC's got the props on Kenneth Walker and Jalen Waddle overs in both of those cases. Good stuff there. We'll put up the full prop, or I should say the full pick screen once we get through the late slate, which begins with a pretty yawn game. Patriots at Raiders. It's -3. Raiders being favored there, 41.5 point total. The good news is, even though it's a bad game to watch, it's not necessarily a bad game to bet, right, Proppy?
That is right, Sia. Yeah, I like some props in this game, starting with Devontae Adams. Got this at 68.5. I believe it's up to 74.5. I'd still play it there if you're uncomfortable with that sort of line movement. You could always scale down to half a unit. But coming off one of Devontae Adams' worst games of his career versus his former opponent, who really made a concerted effort to bracket coverage towards him, I like the spot and a bounce back against New England, whose defense has not been that impressive. No Matthew Judon. They're missing their top corner in Christian Gonzalez, the rookie out of Oregon, as well. So I think this is an excellent bounce back opportunity for Devontae Adams. The Raiders have such a highly hyper concentrated target distribution. It's all Devontae Adams. It's all Jacoby Myers. And then if those two are covered, it's a dump off pass to the running back, Josh Jacobs. So I love Adams in this spot over 68.5 yards. I play it up to 75, 76.5. Could always scale down if you're not comfortable at that number.
And AB, you've got your turnover prop here, and this makes just so much sense. I mean, it's -130, but I mean, you've got 2 quarterbacks that lean into turnovers. So talk about it.
Oh, yeah. Over 2.5 turnovers, -130. I'm surprised this isn't -230. All right. And I'll tell you what's going to happen in this game. Not only do we have the 2 highest turnover quarterbacks in the NFL in Mac Jones and Jimmy Garoppolo, but number 2, both head coaches know each other unbelievably well. Both head coaches know each quarterback unbelievably well. They know everything about them. What they're going to do is they are both going to take away the run as much as they can, right? And say, I don't trust your quarterback. You're going to have to make him beat me, and I don't think that you can. So this game could be all over the board, man. Over 2.5 turnovers should be a gift in this game.
Yeah, I love it. And Dave's official pick, Dave Richard from the Prop Show, Hunter Henry. This is plus money, folks. Hunter Henry over 3.5 receptions at +116. I'm a fan of that one. I think Kendrick Bourne could get involved from a prop standpoint, from a reception standpoint there too. Proppy, go ahead.
I think Mac Jones could have 3 turnovers himself. So I think that's a great look.
You know what's funny? Props. I'm so glad that you said that, because I was wanting to discuss this with you guys, and we won't discuss it on here, but I do want to bring it up. If you're playing any props, Mac Jones, it's so bad that you've seen him already get pulled for Bailey Zappi, that you're on the precipice of this thing could be gone. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's like, if it's going to happen, just pick 6, all kinds of craziness, because he's going to be gone. Yeah. I'm with you, props. Like he could turn it over 3 times by himself.
I'll throw this out there. It wouldn't shock me if Ramondre Stevenson gets near a full workload and outpaces his props as well. Somebody really sneaky to play in DFS. The floor is very low, of course. Somebody really sneaky to play in DFS, maybe if you're just playing that afternoon slate, which I highly recommend. Let's go to Cardinals-Rams. Rams favored by 7. That makes sense. It's a 47.5-point total. Cooper Kupp is back. Nakua is healthy, of course. A lot to like in this game from a point standpoint, from a DFS standpoint, from an overs standpoint. Well, AB, let's go back to turnovers. You like overs there too, right?
Yep. Take it over to 2.5 turnovers in this game, priced at -110. And I'll tell you why. The Cardinals are actually a better team at takeaways than you might think. They're a better team overall than any of us think. But that being said, I think today could be a tough day. I think that the Rams and Sean McVay know what this team wants to do. And when you start going it's one thing to go across the country, play the Commanders who don't know anything about you, right? Mm-hmm. But now you have a team that knows everything about you. And I think that it could be a tough game. And the Rams are just throwing the ball a lot. I have nothing negative to say about Los Angeles whatsoever. It's just a volume. It's just a numbers game. That the more that Matthew Stafford puts the ball in the air, like he's going to throw 3-4 touchdowns and an interception, right? Like it's just standard fair, right, in the NFL. So, yeah, man, over 2.5 turnovers for sure.
Raving Derelict says,
and his wife is pregnant, by the way. Like, at some point, McVay could miss a game, right? Like, that's also on the table. So, I don't know how that works into this, but yeah.
So, Raving Derelict says Stafford 3 touchdowns. That wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, you got to think the Rams and McVay looked at the tape last week of what Burrow and Chase did to the Arizona Cardinals secondary. And now you have Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. Like, it is just an embarrassment of riches for Matthew Stafford, which, by the way, is EC's pick. He has an official pick from the I believe from the prop show. Matthew Stafford over 280.5 passing yards at -115. I like that. I think I like the touchdown props as they relate to Matthew Stafford too. Proppy, anything in this game?
Yeah, Tutu Atwell's been excellent as well. So Stafford really has 3 elite wide receivers. So certainly a bevy of riches for the quarterback who's frankly playing very well in the MVP mix, if you ask me. So I've been very encouraged by Matthew Stafford. Should be a ton of Kieran Williams today. He's had massive usage, massive workloads, pretty much handling every single backfield touch for this Rams team. So I like him today potentially to get in the end zone. I think that is worth a look near even money. As far as the Cardinals are concerned, they have been really sneaky. AB mentioned better than a lot of people think, but I just saw this offense completely crater without James Conner, who had been the centerpiece and the focal point of their offense. Josh Dobbs has been a great story, but threw 2 interceptions, had 0 interceptions coming into the game last week. As soon as Conner went down, looked very mortal. So I think this is a spot where you could see, honestly, if you are a SportsLine subscriber, you know that I like a side in this game quite a bit. I just think the Rams severely outmatched this Cardinals team who have been playing way above expectations. I just think they're a regression candidate, especially without James Conner in the lineup. One guy I do like, however, on the Cardinals offense is Hollywood Marquise Brown. I've been very impressed with his play all season, frankly, but this is a spot where you could see an uptick in volume with the Cardinals playing from behind. So that's a guy I like on Arizona's offense.
Yeah, Marquise Brown I like quite a bit as well. Rondale Moore could be a little sneaky, and I like the Tutu Atwell call out because he's not going to get a lot of attention, and he's always on the field. They run these 3 wide receiver sets all the time, and Tutu is that 3rd wide receiver with Cooper Kupp healthy. So like all of that, I think you guys are right. I think the clock is ticking on the Cardinals sort of overplaying the hand that they have, and I think people kind of have them figured out a little bit. No James Conner is a huge deal. Let's talk about no Aaron Rodgers. The Jets host the Philadelphia Eagles, 6.5, 7-point spread, depending on where you look, 42.5-point total. Proppy, you've got a pick in this game. What is it?
Yeah, going back to the well with Dallas Goedert here. We rode him last week. Cash on the first drive against the Rams. I like him again. The yards are similar, only a couple of ticks higher here, over 36.5. It's still playable at 37, at 38. But love this spot for Dallas Goedert. He has played almost every single offensive snap for the Eagles, just elite route participation on the field for every single Jalen Hurts drop back against this Jets defense. who I do think that the Eagles will be a little more aggressive attacking down the field. So, yeah, I just think Dallas Goedert, after that big performance, heavily integrated into this offense. The Eagles have a very condensed target distribution. We know it's just A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert. No Quez Watkins today. He's been placed on injured reserve. So I like Dallas Goedert quite a bit at this number.
Yeah, and AV, before I kick it to you, I know we have a question from Sean about Kenneth Walker's anytime touchdown. I think he got it at plus money. He might have even got it boosted from like plus 120 to plus 150. There we go. That's good. Yeah, I don't really do a lot of anytime touchdown stuff personally. So for me, it's probably a no. I probably just like his yardage, which I think we discussed was in that 67 range, I believe. And we had Joe Everett boost that. I shouldn't say boosted. He took the alternate line 120 plus rush yards at plus 700. I actually like that quite a bit, by the way. At plus 700, I think that's amazing. Let's stick with the Eagles, Jets, AB. Any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this game features so many injuries that I don't have any official plays on it. I would just say that you're going to see a lot of running the football. You're going to see a lot of short passing game used as running the football, right? Like I think that both teams are going to try not to make big mistakes as opposed to taking shots down the field. The Eagles will. I mean, we know that they'll do that. You could line up a Pro Bowl team, and they're going to take the shots down the field, right? But I don't see the Jets trying anything because that's where it could turn into hell for them. It's already going to be a tough slate. Honestly, this game screams under to me, but no official plays from me. I can see this being a fast-moving clock.
Tough matchup for Zach Wilson, even without Jalen Carter. This Eagles pass rush is super deep, ferocious, and he's struggled against a consistent quick pressure rate. So the Eagles possess that in droves. I like them to really neutralize Zach Wilson in this matchup as well, as AB mentioned.
Yeah, and with injuries on in the Jets secondary, I mean, you could see one of these receivers getting loose. Certainly, AJ Brown is in play to get loose, but it's hard to pick there between AJ and Devontae. But it's been AJ's world for most of this season, so something to consider there if you want to take a look at his yardage or his receptions. I would actually go his yardage over his receptions, by the way. All right, we got one more game, and then we're going to put the entire set of picks, the entire recap screen for everything we've got on this Sunday slate. Let's talk Lions. -3 at the Buccaneers. I think this is a very curious line. I think people see the Lions. It's a 42.5 point total, by the way. And they're like, well, they're going to beat the Buccaneers like pretty easily because the Lions have shown up in pretty much every game. It's a stay away for me. Bucs coming off a bye. They're relatively healthy. No limitations with Mike Evans. Chris Godwin is healthy. Like they pretty much have their full complement. Lions, on the other hand, they have a couple like lingering injuries, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I would lean Lions here, but I have no official play. Allan, what do you like in this game?
Yeah, I agree with you. I lean that same way. I really like this Lions football team. They're going to want to run the football. We'll see how much the Bucs allow them to run the football. This could be a decent little game for Jared Goff, or it could be hell on earth. But I'm fascinated to see how that one goes. I think that the Bucs are going to force him to beat them, and everything recent history has shown that's dangerous because he's been playing lights out, right? But it only takes one, man. Like this defense is good. This Bucs defense is good, man. So stay away from me. But I'm fascinated to watch the Lions pass offense if the Bucs can stop the Lions rush offense.
Yeah, fair enough. And probably before I kick it to you, I'll note that RJ's official pick, which he has on the site, of course, is Lions -3. I can't really argue with that pick. I don't have a hard stance on this one, but if I had to take something, I would take the Lions -3. And Dave from the Prop Show has Baker Mayfield over 32.5 pass attempts at -119. I guess I like that pick. I hadn't really thought about what the distribution was going to be with the running game versus the pass, but 32.5 seems relatively low in likely, I should say likely a negative game script. Certainly not definitely. Proppy, anything you're leaning towards in this game?
Yeah, I put out a play on the site that moved pretty quickly, fading Rachaad White. I do think the number may be too low at its present number to play, but that's certainly a look, in my opinion. I just have been so impressed with this Detroit offense. Specifically, the offensive line has just been incredible run blocking, opening up these lanes for David Montgomery, who's having just a phenomenal season, and he's been playing very well, deserves a lot of credit as well in that backfield. I think we're going to see a heavily concentrated dose of him. AB mentioned Jared Goff. Jared Goff has played phenomenal this season, playing with a lot of leads. But even when he's been blitzed, which has been sort of his MO or his biggest kind of Achilles heel throughout his career, is how he handles pressures. He's handled pressure very well this season. So Jared Goff has made some real strides as well. I just think this offense is so impressive. Then they have an excellent run defense as well. So I think that Detroit's worth a look here and as a 3-point favorite as well. I just am so impressed with this offense. It reminds me a lot of the 49ers, frankly.
Wow, love it. I guess it's Ben Johnson, the OC there, which I know
best offensive coordinator in the NFL right now, in my opinion.
Fair enough. That's saying a lot. And I know Coach Phil, I think he's kind of tight with Ben Johnson, or at least I think that's the case. You're going to see Coach Phil tonight, of course, on our primetime show, Bills Giants. Hopefully you'll see Coach back. The whole crew is going to be there for primetime. We're going to take a look at our week 6 picks here. We're not going to read them off, but if you listen, we have still 7 minutes. So if there's something you missed and you want to bet, I don't expect everybody to bet all of these, obviously. But the ones you like, the ones you've been on all week, those are the ones you bet and you move on from there. I assume, AB, do we have another screen too, or is this everything?
This is everything. And anything that is in green is from the early slate of games. White is from the afternoon slate of games. So obviously everyone got the early slate 30 minutes ago. So should be good there. White, late afternoon slate. You've got time to get those in. They don't start for obviously 3 hours here. So, yeah, man, like that's it. And I'll say, we can leave it up here and we can, kind of end this show, as we go. And I'll say I'm fascinated. Somebody in the chat said it. Prop said it. You said it. I'm fascinated to see the Lions and the Bucs. I think that's going to be a good game. Mm-hmm. And I'm fascinated to see the 49ers and the Browns. Like that, there are so many weird ways that both of those games could go that fascinate me, man. I think it's going to be a really fun NFL Sunday today. I really do. Like, I think we're going to see kind of a little bit of everything. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be a good one.
I think that's a good way to close the show. I'm going to pick out a couple games that I'm fascinated by, Proppy, and then maybe you could pick out a couple games too, because I look at Seattle and Cincinnati, and I wasn't big on Seattle like going into the year. I know a lot of other people thought they were just like a really like hot sort of NFC pick. Proppy, you were one of them too. I certainly thought they were going to be good, but I think this is a prove-it game for Seattle coming off a bye, and it's also a prove-it game for Cincinnati in a lot of respects. Like, can we take them seriously? I think we're going to have to find out today. And I actually think the Colts Jaguars is really interesting. I mean, I was down on the Jaguars all year. I had their win total under. If they don't show up against the Gardner Minshew-led Indianapolis Colts, like there's a problem in Jacksonville. So I'm
Guys,
really
real quick. I didn't interrupt you. The 49ers and Browns just got in a damn fight before the game out on the field. Trent Williams from the 49ers came in and just moved somebody from the Browns out of the way, dude. I'm really fascinated in this one now. Yeah, this is going to be good.
Maybe the last guy I'd want to pick a fight with in the NFL
that dude
is Trent Williams.
Oh, real quick. Also, I wanted to show you guys something real quick. I'm so glad, Sia, that you guys had brought that up, because the fascinating part is that tonight, well, I'm going for back to back to back.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, sir. Yes.
That's never been done for sure.
AB went back to back. Wow.
Incredible. I absolutely love that. Yeah, we're gem hunting tonight for sure. Proppy,
great matchup tonight as well, Sia. Great matchup.
Yeah, it's
I
gonna
love
be
this.
weird. It's gonna be weird. Proppy, any games you're super interested in today?
I think that's the two you pointed out, Sia. Seattle and Cincinnati, I think, is a great matchup. I really don't have I think this game could go either way. I've been impressed with how both teams are playing recently. Joe Burrow looked as good as he's looked all season last week. I just think this game has some shootout potential as well. We could see a lot of passing volume, which is always fun if the right game environment unfolds there. So that's a matchup I really like. And then, Jacksonville and Indianapolis. We've got a divisional matchup here. Both these teams are trending upwards, have a lot of young talent. So those are definitely two games I have my eye on. And then AB mentioned Detroit and Tampa Bay in the second slate. That's a game I'll be paying close attention to as well.
Yeah, and Arizona and the Rams. Like, maybe the Rams we need to start taking seriously too. Like, we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks with them.
I don't know if this is good luck or not, but it's probably tough to see. My shirt actually has a ram on it. Like,
Oh,
how many shirts have a ram on it, right? So maybe that's good luck. I don't know.
Rams -7. That's clearly the play. All right, that's going to do it for us. That's our NFL week 6. I can't believe we're already at week 6. We have so many weeks to go, though. And we have tonight's show. Shout out to BetMGM for sponsoring this show and sponsoring tonight's show and all of our early edge shows. Shout out to AB for doing all the producing and, of course, being like an analyst on this show. Doing both of those for the primetime show and this show oftentimes is really quite amazing. And Proppy, of course, thanks to everybody for getting their picks in the SportsLine family. Thanks to the chat. Have a great week 6, and we'll see you tonight on Early Edge Primetime.